If you feel like the world of AI is moving at a million miles an hour, you are definitely not alone. It's almost impossible to keep up. So today, we're going to cut through all that noise and get right to the heart of what's really going on with AI in 2026. Let's jump in.
It all starts with a question that, honestly, most of us are asking ourselves pretty much every day. Which AI should I use right now? Should I go with OpenAI's ChatGPT? Or is Google's Gemini the better bet? Wait, what about Anthropic's Claude? Maybe that's the one that'll give me the perfect answer. It seems like a simple choice, right? Just picking a tool for a job.
Well, it turns out that choice is just the tiniest tip of a massive iceberg. What you're actually looking at is the front line of a huge, multi-layered conflict for technological supremacy. It's a race happening not just inside America, but all across the globe.
So let's start with Layer 1, the battle raging right in Silicon Valley. This is a crazy fierce competition between the US tech giants, and what's fascinating is that each one is playing a totally different game.
So you've got OpenAI on one side. They're kind of the scrappy incumbents, you know? They're known for this agile, almost chaotic style that lets them ship products like ChatGPT that just completely take over the conversation. Then you have Google, the established behemoth, flexing its muscles with its massive data centers and custom chips, operating at a scale that's hard to even wrap your head around. And then there's Anthropic, a super-focused competitor betting big on specific areas like coding, and in the process creating these intense waves of hype.
And this quote just nails how fast things move. One researcher, Nathan Lambert, pointed out how the hype around a single Anthropic model got so out of control it literally felt like a meme. For a solid few months, Claude was all anyone was talking about, completely pushing its rivals out of the spotlight. It just goes to show how quickly the whole game can shift.
So really, what this all boils down to is a clash of two very different ways of thinking. OpenAI has that startup vibe. It's messy, it's fast, but that's how they deliver these groundbreaking products that define a whole new category. Google, on the other hand, is playing the long game. Their superpower is scale. They've been building data centers and their own custom chips for years, which means they can run things more efficiently and, crucially, avoid paying those eye-watering prices for NVIDIA GPUs.
But this all-American showdown, it's just one piece of a much, much bigger puzzle. So let's zoom out to the global stage, because a new contender has shown up and completely changed the rules of the game. In early 2025, something happened that researchers are now calling the DeepSeek moment. Out of nowhere, a Chinese company called DeepSeek dropped a model that hit state-of-the-art performance. It completely stunned the industry. And that single moment kicked off an absolute explosion of innovation, with a whole ecosystem of Chinese companies now releasing incredibly powerful models, often for free.
And this is where you see two totally different global strategies playing out. Team USA, for the most part, is all about selling access. They build these powerful, closed models and you pay to use them. The goal is revenue. Simple as that. But Team China, they're playing an influence game. They release their models as open weight. Now, that's not exactly open source. It means anyone can download and use the final trained model for free, but you don't necessarily get the secret sauce, the code or the data behind it. This strategy lets them get their tech into the hands of developers worldwide, cleverly sidestepping security concerns that might stop US companies from buying their services directly.
And believe me, DeepSeek is not alone. Just look at this list. A whole wave of companies like ZAI, Minimax, Kimi Moonshot, and Qwen are all pushing the envelope of what these open models can do. This has created this incredibly vibrant, super competitive ecosystem. This isn't just one company anymore. It's a full-blown movement.
Okay, so we've got all these companies in the US and in China constantly one-upping each other with better and better models, but what's the actual revolutionary tech that's making all this happen? Well, the answer is probably not what you think. Seriously, think about it for a second. For performance to be jumping this dramatically, like month after month, you'd think there would have to be some radical new scientific breakthrough, right? A constant flow of brand new algorithms. But that's not really what's going on.
To get why, you have to look at the engine that's under the hood of every single one of these models, the transformer architecture. This design was introduced all the way back in 2017. It uses this really clever trick called an attention mechanism that lets it figure out which words in a sentence are the most important. It's the foundation for everything, from ChatGPT to Gemini to DeepSeek.
And here it is, the big secret. The fundamental design of today's most powerful cutting-edge models, it's not that different from models that came out years ago like GPT-2. The core blueprint is basically the same. All these new amazing models are really just descendants of that original idea, just with some very clever tweaks along the way.
So if it's not some brand new architecture driving these breakthroughs, what is it? The answer is both incredibly simple and kind of mind-blowing. It's scale. These companies are taking the same basic recipe and just doing it on a level that nobody thought was possible.
Okay, so scaling happens in three main ways. Think of it like creating the world's greatest expert. First, you have pre-training. This is like sending that expert to the biggest library imaginable and telling them to read every single book. It builds their raw knowledge. Second is post-training. This is like giving them specialized training to hone very specific skills, like becoming a master coder or a brilliant logician. And finally, you have inference time scaling. This is like giving that expert some extra time to just sit and think really hard about a tough problem before they give you an answer.
And this brings us to a huge economic question. Pre-training costs a fortune. We're talking millions of dollars right up front, but the payoff is a permanently smarter base model. Inference time scaling, on the other hand, costs you every single time someone asks a question, both in compute dollars and in the user's time. So companies are constantly making this trade-off. Do we invest a ton now for a better foundation, or do we pay as we go for better performance on tough problems?
Okay, we've gone through the corporate drama, the global race, and the tech under the hood. But why does any of this actually matter to you? Let's bring it all the way back down to how these smarter, super-scaled tools are changing how we all work.
And this isn't just some theory. I mean, look at this data from a recent survey of pro developers. An absolutely staggering 80% said that using AI makes their job more enjoyable. This isn't just a toy for beginners. These are seasoned professionals who are finding real, meaningful value and even joy by weaving AI into their everyday work.
And this really gets to a fundamental truth here. This isn't about AI replacing our jobs. It's about changing the skills we need to have. For a programmer, it's becoming less about fussing with every semicolon and more about, well, programming with English, guiding the AI at a high level to architect and build really complex stuff. It's a whole new way of creating.
So in the end, as this race for scale keeps going and these models get exponentially more powerful, the focus kind of shifts from the technology back to us. The AI is going to keep getting smarter. That's a given. So the real question, the one we all have to ask ourselves is, how do we get smarter right along with it?